Okay, I think we're live. Nikki.
Hey.
Hey. All right, guys. So here's the deal. We're going to be going over overcoming your fear of public speaking, and we're going to get into it here in just a few minutes. We're glad you're here, and we're glad that you're tuning in. So sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get started right now. Donnie, hit it. Awesome. Nikki, welcome.
Hey.
Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So our friend and co-host, Krista, is celebrating her 40th birthday. She's celebrating it this weekend in Cabo with some friends. And before we end the show, we're going to definitely throw up some of the photos she sent us in her celebration. So she gave us the approval. It was okay to share with the world. So anyways, we just want to say happy birthday, Krista. And we miss you. So anyways, but Nikki, we have enjoyed your company here, and we've enjoyed the time that you and your husband have come on, and we have been so pumped about having you in as a co-host. And I know that the rest of the folks are. So for sure, why don't we just introduce everybody real quick to who you are, and that way they know.
Yeah, I am a businesswoman and entrepreneur. I, with my husband, have founded and scaled and sold, along with our amazing teams, several companies. I started my first company in high school, and today I specialize in commercial real estate development and project management. But my heart is serving entrepreneurs. So my husband and I have a company called Cummings Camp Programs, where we love on entrepreneurs and business owners who are building the business of their dreams so they can live the life of their dreams. So we focus on strategy, scale, culture, all the things related to, the business jungle. And my number one clients are my husband, Buddy Cummings, and my 3 beautiful children who are just so rad. And that's a little about me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nikki. Appreciate you being here. So for those of you who are just joining, this is LunchTalk, and we are on episode 31. So this is part of our Contagious Leadership series, which we're doing. The idea of this is to bring a level of value to you each and every day that we bring the show out live. So this is happening every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central, and it has been going on for at least the last 31 shows. And the goal is that if we can bring something that helps you grow, helps you learn, and really get to meet others in the industry, whether it's in your network or outside of it. So we are always interested in what your thoughts are. What we want to be able to do too, as we get into this, is let us know any questions that you have, drop them in the comments, and we'll get to them as we kind of get to the end, and we want to get into this. So a quick announcement. I spoke with Maria just a few minutes prior to the show. She's been actually suffering from a pretty severe cold/flu, and she wanted to let everybody know how sympathetic and apologetic that she was to all of this, but she will not be joining us today on today's live program. Nikki and I got this locked down, and we're going to get into public speaking from our aspect, and not to worry, Maria will be joining again in another 2 weeks to make up for it. So Maria's not feeling well, so let's please send our love to her. Yeah, she's just not doing that good. But anyways, she'll get better. So she's resting now, and I asked her to please shut her phone off. So we'll kind of get into it. But Nikki, being in the role that you've been in, you've had the opportunity to step into a public speaking role, whether it's from a leadership perspective, and now stepping into a coaching position. Talk to me a little bit about your experience in this area of expertise, public speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, some people are rumored to be more afraid of public speaking than like death. I guess that's the statistic that I've heard so many times. And yes, it is, it can make you feel anxious. But for me, I think I started when I was young. I remember running for rodeo queen of all things. Yes, I am a small town girl from a small town in California. And so I was speaking on stages from the time I was pretty young. And then when I was working with Buddy at one of his first companies, it was a telemarketing company, and I ended up being the sales floor manager. So I would do kickoffs every single day, 4 times a day, to motivate our team. And we were an outbound call center. So all the sales every single day, we started at 0 and we had a goal to hit. So there was a lot of speaking and motivation in that role. And then as we scaled, our big company that we're known for, World Wind and Solar, there was, from anything from working on job sites in the middle of a cornfield in Indiana in December, motivating our team, to speaking, on camera live to our team members of, over 500 people. And then now I've had the honor and incredible blessing to get to speak to junior highs across the country about anti-bullying. And I remember the thing I was most scared of, and I've spoken on, industry topics a lot too, but was going back to my own junior high to 1,000 middle schoolers. So I don't really get nervous speaking, but I was so nervous, like going into the lion's den at my own alma mater junior high.
So, I'm not shocked. I put up a question here. What is your biggest public speaking fear? Because when we went through this and we've looked in, and you said it, a lot of people say that it's they're more afraid of this than anything else. And you've all seen the depictions in movies. We've seen this spoken of many, many times. I've got some notes here, Nikki, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Why are you afraid of public speaking? And is it because, do you think that there's a fear that people may hurt you?
Hurt you? Okay, like you just want me to interpret that any way that I want?
Well, we can, and we can dive into this a little, because I think, it's not because somebody can physically hurt you, right? But is it because of what they might say or what they will behave like, in the sense of are we afraid of public speaking because of the hurt that we would bring on it? Maybe this is an area, Nikki, where it comes down to a level of insecurity or fear of something that would attack your personal well-being, right? And I want to say this not as a personal brand, but your person. Nobody likes to have somebody say something nasty about them. I don't care. There's a lot of us that can be very confident, but deep down, we don't want people to say bad things about us. Nobody does. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I remember after leaving Whirlwind, after we sold the company and, helped with the transition phase. And when we decided to step into this role and really put ourselves out there to serve entrepreneurs, the bulk of our business and the way that we attract clients is through social media, right? Opportunities like this. And to be honest and transparent, yes, I was terrified because my community was, my inner circle was like my family, my friends, my colleagues, my team members. And so, yes, that's a very vulnerable place to be. Is what if I put myself out there and they don't like it, or they think I'm a phony, or they don't buy into what I believe, right? That is a very vulnerable place to be. I can absolutely relate.
Yeah. And you think about the position, like going live like this. I'll tell you, there's a lot that comes with it, right? When you decide that, hey, guess what? And make no mistake, this was not something that it was easy to do. When we were getting this going, I didn't know what was going to happen. What would happen if I bring in a guest and that guest does something and offends somebody, right? What would happen if I did something stupid? What if I said something I couldn't take back? There's a lot of fear there. There really is. There's a lot of fear. Look what happened today. This had nothing to do with Maria, but she was feeling ill. I mean, this happens. We get sick. And so, you think about this, when we get into these types of positions, we go to public speak, we go to get in front of somebody, and things are not always perfect. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a part of me here that says, how well are we working into preparing ourselves for this? So I want to get into a few things here and get your opinion, but one of the things that I believe is very important in the aspect of public speaking is first understanding your speaking style. Would you agree that that is an important attribute, as in the first step is understanding your public speaking, or essentially just your speaking style?
Yeah, I think that I've seen a lot of people put on personas when they go on the stage, and I feel, or even on social media platforms. And for me, my experience, and with a lot of women that are business women, and in a position where they're, building community like this, what we have found is that authenticity and real is better than perfection, right? Just being yourself, showing up, flaws and all, and being okay with that, and knowing that people will celebrate that, because I think we're tired of perfection.
This is the best time for someone like myself to decide to do it. Trust me, I get it. I did the same thing. I have struggled with so many things my whole life, like anybody does. And I looked and said, you know what? I'm not gonna let this affect me. I'm just not. Nikki, here's the deal. I have a bald head. I've been shaving my head for 20 plus years. 5 years ago, I decided to let my hair grow back. It didn't want to come back the way I was hoping it did. You know what I realized? Bald it is. But I don't really like the way it looks without a hat on it. I don't know what else to tell you, right? And I love wearing a hat. And I thought, oh man, is people going to judge me? And I know this seems silly, but these are the things that can attack us when we don't stop and look at exactly what you said: authenticity, being yourself and being true to what it is that you're after, especially when you're trying to bring value to people and engage and build relationship. And I think that's what I love about this type of platform for us, Nikki, is that this is no different. If you meet me at a conference, whether it's in our industry, if you meet me at an event, if we're getting together and socializing, this is exactly who we are. And I think that's why we love this type of setup. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think that also I had to be comfortable with realizing that, I wasn't going to be for everyone. Yeah. And that's okay, because the people that I resonate with are my people, right? And so I had to evolve and come to grips with that of, I don't have to have a broad enough message. I just need to have my message that's authentic to me, that serves the entrepreneurs from my background, and it's going to resonate with the right people. And you have to just trust that process.
So here, as I continue to unpack this, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more. So when you look at it, one of the things is the fear is that people will hurt you or judge you. And so I had a list here, right? People could judge you, they'd hate you, they'd gossip, they'd disagree with you. Maybe they'd bring up a point, and if you've been in sales or any level of working with a client on the other side, you've experienced this, where you get into it improperly. You go in it like it's a debate, and they bring up a bunch of points and you don't have an answer. And so immediately you get flustered, or you get embarrassed, or you don't know how to respond. This comes back, in my opinion, back to that authenticity is, hey, this is what I know. This is what I don't know. Right. And I can't do anything else after that. But now we get into the aspect of understanding the different speaking styles. So here's what I have as the speaking styles. I have the mentor, advisor, consultant style. Okay. Number 2, I have this humorous, charming type of style. Number 3, I have a bold, like a credible, bold type of style. Someone that's, has a very polished is a good word for it. I have the locker room style. So this is the Maybe Buddy falls into this. I think I can see, right? Am I off or? Right,
I'm like, what kind of locker room are we talking about? Like, are we talking about the coach?
I'm thinking like the football, coach, intense and fiery and just kind of like, it's not bad. It's just a style, right?
Yeah, no, Buddy is that guy. Buddy is the intense, in your face, like so fired up, passionate coach.
Oh, yeah, I totally see that. And then we've got the Crusader. This is like that true believer. These are. So, bear with me, you guys. These are some of the notes I had and some things I was actually going to ask Maria about. And so I didn't think I was really expecting her to give more of her stuff. So I'm actually glad because she had already kind of given me a heads up that she was going to kind of put me on the spot, right? She was going to call me out and go through some of my speaking styles, which I cannot wait for. But hey, I'm doing a live show and I got nervous about her calling me out and working with me on a live show to help me understand better speech and better public speaking tips. Mm-hmm. See, I mean, right there, right? Our fears come up and I'm doing a live show and I was getting afraid of getting coached in public. It's so normal.
I applaud you for being willing to take those arrows just so that everyone else can grow from your experience.
I said I would. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. So when she was like, I don't feel good. I'm like, oh, too bad. Darn it. All right. Then I've got this. Yeah, I've got this. Donnie. I've got the storyteller, that imaginative person, that storyteller. And God, there's, I would say the inspirational and philosophical type of personalities. And I think really that's then you look at your sales and technical. So if I was to give 10 styles, I think that would be it. So let's go through this again. And, we've got one of our guests is bringing up a great topic. And Donnie, why don't we put it in is what is your sales style? Go ahead and drop that in as a question. But let's go through this again. Okay, number 1, mentor, advisor, consultant style. Number 2, charmer, humor type. And if you want me to get into these a little bit more, let me know, Nikki. Not sales style, but what is your communication style, Don? If you can fix that for me. Bold, but credible. Locker room styles. Number 4. Number 5 is commanding and firm. Number 6, the Crusader, right? I like this one. He's the true believer. He or she is convinced that what they say, that like nothing would be convincing them otherwise, right? The person I'm talking about, like they drank the Kool-Aid. Let's just put it that way. They've drank the Kool-Aid. 7 is the storyteller, imaginative type. Your number 8 is going to be more of that sales and technical type of personality, very, very technical, and goes into the steps of our process. And was that number 8 or 9? That was 8. Okay, thank you. Number 9 is going to be the inspirational, philosophical type. And I would say then number 10 is going to be more of that seductive type. I have about 15 different personality traits, and I didn't think all of them were appropriate. I was just trying to figure out how to make them work. But as I'm thinking through that, what would you say you fall into, Nikki, from a personality type? And I don't think one, right? I don't think just one personality type is suited for everybody, right? I think we share a couple. But go ahead. I'll let you go into it.
No, I definitely feel like I embody several of those characteristics, but typically I would probably take on the role of the mentor in my space. And that's because I usually am working with folks in an entrepreneurial setting, in a business strategy setting. So I am working with them in a discovery situation, learning what their challenges are, and then providing them like resources. And so sometimes I can get a little bit technical on whatever their challenges are and how to overcome them. So, but I often take on that role of that coach as well, that passionate, when Buddy and I do public speaking events or big leadership trainings, we always ask for surveys. And in the surveys, our number 1 feedback as far as what we're doing well is our passion big shocker, buddy, me.
Yeah.
So, and I love that. I'm like, buddy, and I always say, we're just guilty of loving too much, So I would say those are kind of like the main characteristics that I take on.
So I'm just posting here in the comments, letting all you guys know. Thank you, number one, for showing up today. We really appreciate it. If you're just joining, this is LunchTalk Live. It's episode 31. It's part of our leadership, Contagious Leadership series. We do this every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Time, right here on LinkedIn. And we have wonderful guests like Nikki coming. She is our guest host because she's gone from guest to guest again, and now she's coming in to guest host, which I have a feeling we'll have Nikki on another time. Maybe Nikki might just have to be you and Krista running the show, and Rigo gets a day off.
Girl power.
Yeah, girl, absolutely. So anyways, I'm really glad you're here. And for those of you, again, who are just joining, Maria was ill. She wanted everyone to know that she is very, very sorry. We're going to continue with the conversation, but Maria will be back for us to do a part 2 of this in 2 weeks from today. With that, real quick, I just want to share before we move on what's going on. So next week at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, Donnie. We've got Building Your Personal Brand as a CEO with our guest speaker, Shanae Moret. She's a single mom, built her business from the ground up. She's now a powerhouse in helping individuals understand the importance of personal branding, but she's going to be working on calling out CEOs and leaders specifically into why we are not setting the pace and setting the standard for our team and what we may be missing out in. So, all right, that's enough about that. I just kind of wanted to give that a little shot and plug in next week and kind of get into it. So, all right, so one of the things, Nikki, that I've learned, and Maria speaks on this, and she's going to talk more about it here, but she says that this can be done in 5 steps or less. Now, what I think is really interesting, I learned this from a good friend of mine, but everything we do should honestly come down to what he calls, and well, I forget what he called it. I ended up calling it just the finger rule. It's nothing cool or clever, but I remember it. And that's really what it matters is. And so for me was that we should be able to address this essentially in one hand. And so I've used this as a technique where I'm looking where my thumb introduces for me in my mind as I'm setting my 5 steps or less. I'm essentially setting up my introduction. And so what's happening is mentally and physically, what I'm doing is when I'm speaking, I'm actually touching each finger to remind myself what step I'm walking into. So when I'm speaking in these types of engagements, because it's easy to get distracted. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm keeping my finger touched and reminded, it's reminding me what step I'm on. Hey, this works for me. And I'm sharing this with you guys, but essentially your introduction and what you're going to be getting into is your step 1. And then you should be able to break down each of your subject elements down into 3 steps and then your closing statement. Have you ever heard of a tactic like this before?
Yeah, I like it. There's our preacher at our church has.
You want to talk about public speakers? There's no better. Listen, no, this is real. There is no better speaker, no better public speaking person than a pastor.
Right, and you've got to he says, hook 'em, book 'em, and took 'em, or something. Like he has a process like that where it's the storytelling element where you share something that you bring someone along in a journey. And then, you share it, you insert the message or the scripture, and, there's this whole process. And that is something where I am a pretty organic, passionate, kind of creative. I have my content, and then I get up there and I just emit, right? And I just go with the flow. I don't recommend that, right? If you're really trying to be strategic and become a master of your speaking. And so I wish I were that better storyteller. That is something that I really want to work on, because when you can tell a story and tell it well, you take, like I said, that person or those listeners on a journey with you. And I want to be better about that. But yes, I have heard of those devices, and I'm taking mental notes, Rigo. I want to be writing down, but I'll listen to this on the replay.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So one of the questions that's coming in, the comments that's coming in from Paul. One of our listeners here is what about the dreamer? And I think that's a really good question. When you look at the dreamer, I would say for me, Paul, that the dreamer really comes into that crusader, because there are people that speak well, and this kind of goes back to some of the leadership episodes that we had here recently. But the dreamer and that crusader, to me, they all fall into the same place because they're very passionate in believing what it is that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always have the right context. What's funny is, as we're talking about this, I'm terrible with those. Now it's going to stand out for you guys. Now it's going to drive you nuts. You're going to be like, I can't listen to this guy anymore. You're like, I can't do it. It's ums and ums. It's how my brain processes. She swears that her technique that she's got, and I believe her. By the way, Maria is an incredible speaker. One of the things that she teaches is a way to get the brain to see, there it is again. To click into it. All right, so maybe we should have a little game. Count how many ums I do during this live aspect.
You can do a drinking game at the Cigars and Whiskey show. And
yeah, there it is. Yeah, right now it's just my Topo Chico, and I'm enjoying some nice mineral water. I love this water.
They don't sell it here. We can't find it in Florida, and I'm devastated about it.
Come on.
We got to start buying it in cases online.
Yeah, you know what? I'll ship it to you. All right, so we've got understanding your public speaking style, right? Or the understanding the fear, of public speaking. So I have to understand your fear, getting past that, and then knowing your communication style. Before I get into the third aspect of this, and just for my third topic here is what we can do to improve as we speak to an audience. I think we need to get into a little bit more of understanding the different styles and why this is so important. So when I look at the situation right now, and I'd love to hear this from our audience, but what situations that you speak in are more prominent? So, not a lot of us speak in a public speaking role. Okay. But we do public speak. So this is a platform where we're public speaking. So Nikki, from your experience, give me 3 situations that you addressed where you had to speak in a large group that we could reference as a separate challenges, because each would have its own set of fears.
Okay. Early on in my career in renewables, I would have to speak in conference rooms and boardroom settings over contract negotiations or change order discussions. And I would be the only female and most often the youngest person in the room.
Well, that's a really great point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, there's a fear from being like a female with a majority male or male with a majority female.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
I was fortunate. I always say it was kind of my secret weapon because they didn't see me coming. They thought one thing about me. And then when we would go into the contract negotiations and I had all my I's dotted and my T's crossed, they were like kind of caught off guard. And so it played to my advantage, but it was definitely a new environment for me. And another setting that was, kind of a different setting was renewables. Now it feels like renewables are very relevant. They're a part of the conversation. You hear about it in the news. You see wind turbines on commercials and in movies. But when we started out, the renewables were just, very, very new. They've been around here since the early 80s, but still new. Yeah. And so I would speak at energy summits, and I would be like the wind and solar girl in a room full of oil people. And so I always felt like, a little intimidated, like they don't want me here. So that was kind of another setting that was a little challenging where, again, I felt like the odd man out. and a little bit uncomfortable. So I just really worked to have a commanding understanding of my content, of what we were talking about. And then, you know, like I said, talking to junior hires, man, like they're amazing, but their attention spans are different and the things that interest them are different. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge that I love, but yeah, it can be brutal.
So once you started to, I mean, did you recognize what the fears were? I'll give you an example for myself. Maybe this will help. But you know, in different roles, especially as I would work with a new company, I'd now have a new product or some type of a new service that I was representing, and I wasn't an expert in it, right? And so one of the things that I find in my experience is a lack of understanding in the topic that we're talking about, right? And so one of the ways that we can improve our public speaking style and our ability to speak in general is to be confident in what it is we're speaking about. Would you agree?
Yeah. So when I first went into the renewable industry, like Buddy and I would laugh all the time, like, you know, how many electricians does it take to wire a turbine? And we're like, what's a wind turbine? You know, I mean, I was really new to the industry. I grew up in Tehachapi, California, so I knew what renewables were, but I didn't know the technical side or the mechanical side of the machines and of, you know, the scopes of work. And so I just became a student of my trade. And that's what I recommend to startups and new entrepreneurs, people that are stepping out into new roles, is just to be curious and become obsessed with learning about your product, your service, your industry, your audience, right? Whoever you're speaking with, and get curious and just really do the research, right? You can figure out everything now on Google. And so for me, that really helped was, you know, following the industry publications, getting connected, you know, and just really diving in.
Google and YouTube. Right. Where would we be without them? Yes, absolutely. So here I wrote down a few things that I found in characteristics and traits in what makes a good public speaker. And I want to lay these out for you guys and see what your thoughts are. Again, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Thank you for being here and being a part of the program today as we really address this aspect of public speaking. So let me get into this. So a good speaker or a great speaker will learn how to create the anticipation of a story, right? So we talk about a pastor and we talk about, you know, like a TEDx or something like this, right? They understand how to create anticipation, right, for the climax. So they build curiosity and surprise. They include the right amount of details, not too much. They control the flow of speech with tonality. That is the one thing I know for myself that I can struggle with, because when I get excited, I talk louder and faster. Right? And can anyone else like get an amen on that one? Especially when we're passionate, because when I go back to the types here, you know, for me, I'm definitely storyteller, imaginative type. I do feel that there are times that I fall into that mentor, advisor, consultant type, but it has to be something not only that I'm passionate about, but it has to be something that I have a great deal of experience in, because I feel confident in order to share it, especially like if it has to do with somebody avoiding a mistake. I really don't want people to make the same mistakes that I have made in my career. Got an amen coming in. I feel you, man. I get excited, and then here I go. I have to go back to my fingers. That's the one thing I've used, you know, as a way to remind me that I'm going off topic. They control the flow of speech through tonality. They involve the audience in their storytelling. That's always a great characteristic. They have the right energy while presenting their story. They know the importance of timing and how you can tell a certain story. So possibly they've run through it a couple times, right? They paint the picture for an audience. So they help them imagine the story through visualization in the way that they're speaking. They show feelings. in the story that they're telling. They use the right amount of body language, and they end with a climactic ending, but giving a lesson. Would you say that sums up a great speaker?
Yeah. And I have a few people that when you're speaking about that kind of flow who come to mind.
So who's that?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Oh, very, very good. Very good. Tony Robbins is very good. You know, one of the tips that I've learned is when speaking, I don't know if you're like this, Nikki, but when I write pretty well. In fact, most people don't know that when there's things that have been written, that have been sent, that I wrote it. I wrote. See, I write better than I speak. Right. So this comes back to knowing your speaking style. Is anyone else? I mean, do you find yourself that way? Like there are words that I know the words and I love what they mean, because the English language is filled with really great words that explain something that small baby words can do, but they're much better, more in depth. They have more emotional attachment. And so for me, I can write well. If I was to try to read that out loud, I would slaughter it. And it's my own writing.
I am a writer. That's my background. I used to publish a magazine and was, a writer before that. So yeah, for me, I love the written word, and somehow I'm funnier when I write as opposed to when I'm speaking. I don't know how, or maybe I just think I'm funny, but
So you humor yourself. Does anybody else tell you you're funny?
I let everybody in my family know how funny I am. I have to remind them on a daily basis.
Well, that's actually pretty funny. So I see I got some stuff coming in here. So Nikki Cummings Rigoberto, that's me. So I can't even say my own name. How important is it to practice for speaking events? Nikki, I'll let you answer this.
So I think it's extremely important, and not to get so word for word remembering a speech, but just remembering the outline of your speech, right? The couple nuggets, like you were saying, Rigo, with your fingertips, that you really want to bring home, how you want to, introduce the topic, and then how you want to wrap it up. I think if we get too consumed, and I'm guilty of this, if I have too many notes, too many lines, and I want to include everything, all my thoughts, every single idea into an outline, then I tend to, no matter how hard I practice, I'll tend to read from the outline because I don't want to miss anything. I want to over deliver and make sure I capture all my thoughts. So yes, I can't say practice enough, but not, like I said, not to the point where you're trying to remember word for word, because I think that ends up, for me, I get hung up. So just remembering the general flow and one or two really good stories, maybe 3, and just so you can vibe off of the audience. As you start to speak more, you'll do that. You'll start to vibe off of the audience or the comments that are in the chat box. We do a lot of speaking virtually like this now. And so maybe you want a couple other stories in your back pocket that might resonate differently. But yes, practice, practice, practice.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Tonality, body language is going to allow you to interact, working with the audience that you're speaking to. Nicole, so if you're looking at what you're speaking in front of, so if it's a virtual type of event, one of the things I love, let's take a look at Nikki's background real quick. Donnie, put us both on the screen and you'll see Nikki presented her place well. No, but here's why this is important. Nikki, if you had a distractive background, you would do 2 things. Number 1, you would be distracted yourself. Number 2, you would be distracting others from listening to you. Okay. I got a couple things on the wall. I like my set, but I don't have a lot of things that are going to distract you too much. You'll see it within a couple minutes. You'll get it. And you'll get through it, and you've seen it. And now you're good. You can move on. Right. And usually if I've got something on here, I'll tell you, hey, yeah, it's a bottle of water. Stop what you do. All right. Now you know. Now pay attention. Right. Engaging in your community is important as you're speaking with them, your audience. It's been a while since we've been in a live setting, so I'm calling them the community. And here's one of the tips that I've learned very well is learning how to speak while looking at yourself. So one of the things that you guys don't know that I have here is I have a monitor here below the camera that we use. And the reason why I do that is that I want to make sure that I'm getting eye contact with you, even though we have a second camera that I personally like better because it has a better image and I think it makes me look better. This is the camera that I speak to when I'm trying to speak to you. And that took me some time learning how to talk to myself. But when you go and practice through the process of speaking to yourself, like using a mirror, recording yourself in video, the things that you'll find is you'll find that you have certain facial expressions that you may want to adjust. You'll find that you have body language that you may want to adjust. Now, you don't want to be overcritical, but in terms of practicing, understanding how to place yourself and how to speak with the audience on the other side, you absolutely need to practice. And unfortunately, sometimes the only way to do that is to do it in the event live. You just got to get to it. You really can't get around it. But in preparation, by all means, and I agree 100% with Nikki, don't overdo the details because that's what you're going to get caught up in. You just need the bullet points that you're going to be addressing. And more importantly, understanding your speaking style. So if my speaking style to teach a lesson has to do with creating a story, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce it as a story and I'm going to make it authentic and I'm going to get to the point and I'm going to grab and engage you in it. And that's going to have a lesson. It has to have a reason of where it's getting to. Right now, that's if I'm doing that type of a speech where I'm bringing you in because I want your buy-in. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I would say that comes down to if we're going to look at that's the inspirational, the philosophy. You know the word I'm trying to talk about. Philosophical. My goodness. I'm telling you, I write words I can't speak. But that's me, right? And even though they're right here, I've had to learn my speaking style. The most important thing I would say is being comfortable with your speaking style, knowing that you can improve, being comfortable in who you are and being authentic in that place. Because when you make a mistake, nobody really cares. If they're going to judge you because you stuttered or you couldn't say a big word, listen, they've got a lot of issues that they need to be dealing with. Then there's better things in life that we need to be worried about, right? Being authentic, I think, is key. You said that right from the beginning, Nikki.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just somebody mentioned earlier in the comments. I'm just trying to scroll through, but about like, how do you overcome that fear? And I just think for me, it was just reminding myself, like you said, if they're going to judge you, they're not my people, right? Those people are not my people. And I'm looking to build community with people who are like, yes, this is my girl. I feel her, like her wisdom, her experience. This resonates with me. A lot of my clients are men. A lot of my clients are women. Some are in the service industry. Some are in construction. Some are in real estate. You know, it varies, but it's finding that connection and that chemistry. And you want people that will resonate with you. And I just think that I really had to accept that I don't need to be everything to everyone. And once I accepted that, it was so freeing. And so even if I go up on a stage full of men or full of a bigger industry, than me, and I'm the outcast, I just know that somebody's going to be in the audience that needs to hear what I have to say. And I just remind myself of that. And that helps, give me that peace.
And I don't think everybody's role is necessary, that it's going to require them to speak in a public setting, but understanding the skill set of public speaking in any form, I think, is important, whether you're a parent, whether you're working and helping a nonprofit, whether you're in a position of looking for a new job, or you're trying to get buy-in from a team. I think learning how we speak and learning our styles is so important. So this is something I do feel very passionate about, and I'm always looking at ways to improve. I want to get to that question. And Donnie, do me a favor, bring it back up. I want to get exactly the words on what this question was. And it says, people will hurt you and will judge you, was a very important point that we touched upon. If you share the solution, this would be grateful. Okay. Hurt and judge. So how can somebody hurt you and how can somebody judge you? Right. So they will judge you based on what merit. And these are the things that I believe that we need to look at. See, there are ways where if I'm working with a client and I present myself and I present, let's say my product or service, or I'm reaching out and I'm sharing something with them, and they make assessments to it, and they tell me that things are not right or there's too many questions that they have. I look at this opportunity and recognize these are areas where the improvement matters. There is a post here recently that we were working on and we put up, but it's a comment from Henry Ford. And I love this quote because he talks about the aspects of failure, and failure is not anything but opportunity to improve on and essentially do better on the next time. Mm-hmm. So when you're going into these public speaking forums, for me, the importance is understanding, again, what are your fears? So if your fears are verbal hurt or mean things that could be said, because words do hurt, and it's a fear of judgment, then what is it that's going to, like, what are they going to judge you on? And so this is the preparation, right, Nikki? This is where you say, okay, like, I'm going to be confident in what I'm doing. I'm going to be confident in who I am. I'm going to be confident in the fact that I have my skill set is here. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that, right? That I've only done this 5 times, that I've never done this before, that I've never been in this situation, that I'm going to do my best. It's about being authentic and understanding. For me, if I was to share anything, is who cares what they have to say, because they're not doing what you're doing. You're speaking out. Now, if it's an area where we can learn to improve, listening and hearing sometimes the truth, areas that we can improve in can hurt, but it needs to be received differently. It needs to be looked at as opportunity to grow and become stronger. I hope that helps. Nikki, you want to?
Yeah, I'm with you, Rico. Like I mentioned earlier, when we do leadership conferences, we get surveys back, and I talk to them. A part of our discussion is seeking and soliciting and craving receiving feedback, right? And so when I go at the end and I say, we need you to fill this out, because like we talked to you, we lead by example. We can only grow and improve if you help us, if we seek your feedback, right? So I do think if you hear feedback, whether it's solicited or unsolicited, ask yourself, right, if there's relevance to it and if you can grow. Otherwise, a friend of mine sent this today. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Ooh. And right, Eleanor Roosevelt.
That is so good. That is so good.
So we get to decide, right, if we're going to give them that power. And something that I read a long time ago, and as I started to go on like bigger stages with more people, I read something that said, your opinion never wrote me a check. And, as silly as that sounds, it fires me up. I'm like, your opinion about me is not going to pay my bills at the end of the day, right? Right. So I'm going to do me. And so I'm getting a little passionate here. Sorry.
No, it's about being authentic. Go.
But that's what, Eleanor Roosevelt said it better. But for me, I just remind myself, like, nobody's opinion about me is going to write my check, right? It's not going to pay for my family. It's not going to chase my dreams, right? I can do that. I'm the only one who can do that. So I just encourage anybody who's here today that has that fear. It's a real fear. I honor that fear. I have struggled with it as well. And if I don't practice that mantra of your opinion isn't going to cut my check, I can get consumed by that fear as well. But as Rigo said, also, receiving the feedback, learning and growing. But when it's just noise and, especially the internet, we're all trolls, right? Or we have the ability, don't be a troll, but we have the ability to be a troll and just to fire off like a little wizard with our keyboard. So remembering that that's just noise, right? There's a lot of unhappy, sad people in the world, and social media gives them a platform. and just to be able to, decipher what's valid and what's just hurting people.
And when you get into this, and I want to go back as we kind of recap, when you look at your fears, and this isn't so much about overcoming fears as much as it is about understanding your fears. So when you understand what the fears are, then you can be prepared for them. Here's the reality. People will always be judgmental. People will always have something to say. And the fear of those things will likely never go away. I would have to say, from my opinion, Nikki, you have to speak on your own, but the fear doesn't leave me. I get nervous every time we get ready to go live. I get nervous every time I get ready to speak with a client. I get nervous every time I go to events and network. People may or may not believe that from me if they watch me at an event and they see the way I am, but I get very, very nervous. In fact, I get ill before every single event that we've ever attended. There's a reason why I'm drinking mineral water. It helps my belly. See, listen. All right, Bonnie, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I know my style. I know my fear. I know that I get nervous. And so what am I drinking? Water that helps me settle my stomach. So I don't get upset. I didn't even think about it. I'm just drinking because I always do. I always bring. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it wasn't so much about understanding as much as it is, about overcoming as much as it is about understanding. There's some things I will be able to overcome, right? I can get better and I can grow skill sets. But understanding where the issues are for me, I know now how to combat them and I know how to be ready for them. I know that I have more notes here than I need. But I had them here because I didn't know where this conversation would go, as our guest was not able to make it. She doesn't feel well. She's having to reschedule. I'm not going to cancel this for you guys because there's things that we can share. And Nikki has tons of experience as well that she can bring. And I don't want to stop the show. And I know you guys don't either, right? So
when you messaged me, I was just like, a little caught off guard, but I'm like, challenge accepted. Like, Rico's genuine. I'm genuine. I don't know where this is going to go, but we're just going to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one of the tips I'll bring out again is, so know your fears and learn to understand them. So, we talked about this. People can judge you. These are the things that people will judge you on: your looks, your height, your gender, your ethnicity, skin color, your accent, your ability to speak, wearing a backwards hat or not, your income, where you are in your life, your religion, marital status, do you have kids, not have kids. Pretty much, in short, people will judge you on anything and everything they can in order to just reflect their own insecurities. That's what people do, unfortunately. Know that, be prepared for it, understand it, let it go. But once you understand your fears, you can know how to address them. Number two, the other aspect that we talked about here was knowing your communication style. So I'd love for you guys to let us know. And you know what we'll do, Nikki, is I'll work on putting something together here, a short synopsis. So by the time we have the next episode, we can really get into this a little bit more. And we'll possibly put it out as a handout, but knowing your communication style. So are you a mentor, advisor, consultant type? I think really, if you look at 3 to 5 of these, that's probably what we are. But knowing if, are we a charmer, and do we bring humor, bold, right? And creative type of personality? Do we have the locker room style, right? Commanding and firm. Now we talk about Buddy having that locker room, but I've spoken with Buddy too, to also know he's got passion and he loves the idea of mentorship, and he's very compassionate when he speaks. He's also the type of person that I know could very well be a true believer when it comes to certain aspects. Why? Because his life has taught him lessons that he doesn't want anyone else to have to go through when they're having negative outcomes. So knowing your styles, having that sales or technical type of sales style, being seductive, that's a sales style. A speaking style, very much. Having a seductive type of nature when you're presenting or speaking, it is a sales style. It's unique. I wrote that down. It is unique, and it really does have the need of having someone to have quite a bit of confidence in themselves. It could almost be it can almost go over the line of confidence and go into arrogance and cockiness. That is one of the negative styles that could be out there, arrogant. So anyways, and then of course, knowing how to face your fears on this. So anyways, listen, was this at all helpful for any of you? Please let us know. Did you get any value out of this conversation? We would love to be able to do more for you in this and bring more more skill sets, more knowledge that could help you out. Nikki, what's your thoughts on what we've reviewed today?
I just think first of all, congratulations and well done on a job, on the fly, and having such a commanding understanding of your flow and where you wanted to go with this conversation, drafted in a matter of, a pretty short amount of time. So I'm proud of you. And thank you for that.
10 minutes.
And you nailed it.
Maria gave me a bit of a heads up, but we were right in the middle of other projects. And I'm like,
Like, here we go. But I guess the last thing that I would leave you guys with, because you've been talking a lot about, I agree with you that sometimes that fear doesn't go away. And sometimes I don't care how much you speak right before, even if you speak on stages with thousands of people, before you get up there, you get those butterflies, you get those nerves. Some people sweat, you get dry mouth. I take water with me also on stage. And I remember hearing, I wish this wasn't mine, this is just like a scientific fact, is that the emotions for excitement and nervousness are basically identical. Like the physical feelings are identical. So when I do get nervous, I'll say I'm excited, and I'll say it to myself, and I'll even say it out loud. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And because it'll condition my brain, like, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. And then you have that mental shift. I've experienced it myself. I know it works for a fact. So for those of you who still get nervous, you have that fear and you start to feel those physical effects to condition your mindset. I'm not nervous, I'm excited. I'm excited. I can't wait for this, right? And it sounds silly, but you can trick your own brain and it works.
No, this mental hacks are important. I do this, right? Knowing my time. I have a clock up that I'm watching the whole time because I want to be appropriate with the time as well. This is one of the other aspects of learning how to public speak. So listen, I think there's a lot more. Obviously, this hour just flew by. So if you are catching this on a replay, by all means, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for those of you that joined live, and those who continue to have more questions. There's still other questions coming in, and I want to be able to answer. Nikki, maybe you and I will get offline and we'll get into the comments. We'll get into the discussion there and share more with others. I'm grateful that you guys are here. We're going to do more on this. Donnie, I think we need to dive into this a lot more. Yeah. This kind of came in as a topic with Maria being a professional in the area and a coach and teacher in this. But you know what, Nikki, I think we need to get into this more and bring more skill sets out there. And hey, I'm fine of being the test dummy. We can do a few of those. I'll tell you what, listen, we all have fears. I don't want to just kind of drop it here, but we all have fears in a bunch of different areas. And we're always going to have areas that we can improve and places for growth. One comment came in and I want to address it because it said, what do you focus on more, the negative or the positive? To be honest, and I think to share something with you is I don't focus on either. I don't focus on either positive or negative. I evaluate. And so I take it all as a step forward to make improvements, because positive feedback, you guys listen, positive words can be just as harmful as negative, because people can be pumping you up and telling you you're doing a great job because you're fans. And the truth is you're not. Listen, remember American Idol? Do you remember how many people showed up that probably should have had someone tell them, please don't go embarrass yourself on public television, on national television? You guys, right? This is one of the things we want to remember. Just because it's positive, it doesn't mean that it's constructive. Okay. So negative, positive, it has to be dissected the same way. Just like everything else in our life, we have to evaluate it. We need to look at it and recognize, does this fit me? Does this help me grow? And then not living in a story that's not suiting us. So if you're telling yourself, oh, I hate public speaking, well, stop saying that, number one. Stop telling yourself that you hate public speaking. You keep doing that, guess what? You're going to hate public speaking. So the words we use are important.
Yes.
So maybe we learn this from the baby step, which is number one, stop telling people, stop telling yourself you hate speaking in public. Nobody likes to speak in public until it becomes comfortable, just like anything else. Nobody likes to crash and burn. Nobody likes to make mistakes. Nobody likes to get made fun of. There's nobody that says and wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I sure hope somebody says something stupid about me and embarrasses me. That would be awesome. Nobody does that. All right. So anyways, you guys, listen, thank you so much, Nikki. Please just send my love to Buddy. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. You have an amazing community. And Krista,
yeah,
I'm so nervous about not having you here. I dyed my hair dark just to connect with you.
Oh, okay.
So I hope you're having a happy birthday, beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki, again for being here. Thank you very, very much. And happy birthday to Krista as you're enjoying yourself in Cabo. You guys, thank you for showing up. Let us know. Drop stuff in the comments. I won't. I got the next 30 minutes. I'll answer what I can, and we'll get you more information on this. But I promise you, we will bring more of this back. Okay. Until then, you guys remember next week, same time. We've got a lot more going on. We're going to post that here shortly, and we'll get the invites out for those of you that want to join. Thank you. Be blessed, and I'll talk to you next week.